And welcome to the program. I'm Anne Nwawadu. Coming up on News Across Nigeria today. Federal government begins consultative meeting on how to end the herdsmen farmers crisis. G7 plus countries and friends of the Gulf of Guinea chart a new course for a safer maritime space. And the Edo State government says it will clear arrears of pensioners. Once again, welcome. Barely a week after the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, visited Adamawa State following the communal clashes in the area, the federal government has begun consultations on finding lasting solutions to the face-off between herdsmen and farmers across the country. The first meeting, which was hosted by the Vice President at the Villa, had in attendance the Emir of Kano, Muhammadu Sanusi II, Lamido of Adamawa, Muhammadu Barkindo Aliyu Mustafa, elder statesman Malam Ahmed Joda, and other leaders of the Fulani communities. At that meeting, previous reports in the conflict were presented by the delegation of the conflict were analyzed. The meeting condemned the acts of violence that has occurred, especially the killings of children and women. It also highlighted the need for law enforcement and other government agencies to dutifully and objectively reform their constitutional roles. The Vice President assured the delegation of the federal government's resolve and its commitment to the entrenchment of lasting peace in all communities across the country and the resolution of all legitimate grievances. In the next series of meetings, the Vice President will meet with Bata Bachama and other groups from Adamawa State, while meetings with stakeholders from other conflict-affected states would also follow. Member countries of the G7++, Friends of the Gulf of Guinea, are meeting in Lagos to chart a new course for a safer and more prosperous maritime space. The president of the group, Daniel Bosio, says the meeting will afford concerned countries the opportunity to consolidate on the agreements reached at the last summit in Rome. Our correspondent Chris Illems reports.
It's the biannual meeting of the G7++ Friends of the Gulf of Guinea holding in Lagos, and delegates have come from different countries of the world to participate.
As been alluded to by our previous speakers.
At the last meeting in Rome, the group agreed on a common interest to make the waters of the Gulf of Guinea open to maritime safety and communication and free of all forms of illegality. This summit, according to the president of the group, will further that course.
This meeting gives us the opportunity for states of the region as well as regional institutions on one side to indicate gaps in capacity building and needs in equipment, and on the other to illustrate the individual and collective achievement they have made so far.
In his speech, the Minister of Defense highlights the recent increase in the rate of criminality such as kidnapping, piracy, unregulated and unreported fishing activities in the Gulf of Guinea, and the federal government's position on it.
To change the narrative of this insecurity and criminality in Nigerian waters, the Nigerian government adopted the hard and soft power approach, including bilateral and multilateral collaborations with organizations and countries among you. The hard power approach is spearheaded by the Nigerian Navy in conjunction with other maritime security stakeholders.
Given the vast area of the Gulf of Guinea, which is about 6,000 kilometers of coastline from Senegal to Angola, the need to protect its immense resources cannot be overemphasized.
As a Senate Committee on Navy, we assure you of our readiness in this regard to provide needed legislative framework. This forum serves as an important institution for non-African states interested in contributing to maritime capacity building efforts in the region.
The G7++ Friends of the Gulf of Guinea is expected to strengthen key instruments towards developing a robust legal framework on maritime security goals and promote economic development. Chris Illems, Channels Television News.
Now, to get more on the issue of maritime safety is the Director General of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA, Mr. Dakuku Peter Side. He is in the studio with me. Thank you very much for joining us on News Across Nigeria.
Thank you. And
now,
good afternoon.
All right, good afternoon. What is the importance of this G7 plus partnership to Nigeria, and what area does it actually cover?
Now, the G7 plus group of friends of the Gulf of Guinea is an initiative of the Italian presidency of the G7. I'm sure you know what the G7 group represents and who they are. It's a group of countries led by the United States, Germany, United Kingdom, Netherlands, Norway, and Belgium, and the rest of them, of course, including Italy, and observer nations like Brazil and others. Now, when any country assumes leadership or the presidency of the G7, they usually will take on one or two issues that they will focus on trying to find solutions to during the period of their presidency. And Italy is occupying the presidency of the G7. So Italy took on as its own initiative the problem of insecurity or maritime crime in the Gulf of Guinea. Now, in the past 1 year, he has had a number of engagements trying to find solution to the problem of insecurity or maritime challenges in the Gulf of Guinea, including engaging with strategic holders and regional partners like ECOWAS, ECAS, of course, and the countries of the Gulf of Guinea stretching all the way from Angola to Senegal, most countries of the Central Africa and East and West African region. And so G7 for the first time is holding in Africa. It moved, the earlier meetings had taken place in Europe, especially Rome in particular, and so they eventually moved the meeting to Lagos, Nigeria. The reason is that Nigeria has shown leadership in tackling maritime crime and piracy. And of course, Lagos represents the epicenter of the Gulf of Guinea. And so the meeting was moved to Lagos, and he hosted a lot of partners, most of the countries of the G7 and most of the countries of the Gulf of Guinea, including institutional bodies, multilateral and bilateral institutional bodies like ECOWAS, the Interregional Coordination Center, ECAS, ECRAMASO, and the rest of them, for 2 days, or actually 1.5 days, in the city of Lagos.
Okay, you said they moved it to Lagos because they considered the extent that security has, or maybe what you guys are doing concerning security in Nigeria. But when we talk about general security in the Northeast, there is insecurity there. We talk about the role of SARS. We talk about herdsmen and farmers' attack. Do these things have anything to do with maritime in Nigeria?
Well, you know, this is interrelated. When you talk about insecurity, one affects the other. No, there's no way we can deal with security in isolation. Security is usually a social problem. Social problems cannot be boxed to a small corner and say, well, when you talk about maritime insecurity, that only affects the creeks, the rivers, the seas, the ocean, or what you call the inland waters, the high seas, the deep offshore. You can't isolate that and deal with it in such compartments. That would be wrong or dysfunctional analysis, and you get a wrong outcome. They're all interrelated. Very often, and like you know, these things are planned onshore and executed offshore, at times executed across jurisdictions. So they're all interrelated. And so you can deal one in isolation. But again, right now we're focusing on maritime security, precisely crime committed on sea and piracy.
Well, maritime security has a lot to do with international trade. Have you considered, if someone asks you, how safe is the water for international trade right now? Yeah,
well, these things have been exaggerated. Sometimes we give out figures without any empirical study or evidence, and it's disheartening. It's something that we should be concerned about. Accurate statistics helps everybody in planning. And so people shouldn't just run statistics for the sake of running statistics or for as means of mischief. It does nobody any good. I won't say that our waters are the safest. But at least there's been a lot of improvements. In this meeting of the Gulf of Guinea, it was shown graphically that there's a decrease in maritime crime in the past 1 year, drastic decrease in maritime crime as well as in piracy.
All right, thank you very much, Director General of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Dr. Dakuku Peterside. Thank you for your time on News Across Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
And when we return in just a moment, we'll be talking about the power sector in Nigeria. Please stay with us.